to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and I think we're actually live streaming with a scheduled tweet on YouTube now, which is much farther progress than what we've normally had. So hopefully everything goes to plan. Hopefully you guys heard the intro live on YouTube. And if that is the case, then it's small steps. But speaking of small steps, the Philadelphia Union had the opportunity last night against the Columbus Crew to take small steps and eventually, get into one of those final playoff spots. That did not happen last night as the Union fell to the Columbus Crew by a score of 1-0, thanks to a goal by Yaw Yeboah of Columbus Crew in the 75th minute. So we're going to go ahead and talk about my thoughts on that game. We'll go ahead and hear Jim Curtin's thoughts on missed opportunities, specifically in the first half. Go ahead and hear Jim Curtin's thoughts on Quinn Sullivan's performance. Go ahead and hear the injury to Nathan Harriel, and then the potential possibility of the Union going out and signing some potential free agents. MLS teams have until September 13th. That's when the MLS roster freezes. So we'll go ahead and talk all things MLS roster freeze. And as you guys know, when we do these midweek episodes, we don't do blunder of the week. Was there some news that I could have potentially talked about? I think I could have found something, but yeah, it's already 10:34 at night, and I don't want to make this an hour-long podcast live stream like we've normally had. So we're going to go ahead and just get straight into the game, give my thoughts, play 4 clips tonight. Everything's looking like it's good on YouTube. Not sure. Hopefully that is the case. If not, then we'll find a way to correct this later, attempt to correct it, or maybe even just switch to a whole different streaming service. I don't know. Just bite the bullet. But regardless, and we're here to talk about Philadelphia Union, Columbus Crew. And you look at the starting lineup from this game, it was 3 changes for the Union compared to the team that the Union had out there against Colorado Rapids on Sunday in the third place game in the League's Cup. You look and see, and Danley, I'm just calling him John Jock comes into the starting lineup for Jesus Bueno. You also see Quinn Sullivan move backwards into a more wide midfield role. We see Nathan Harriel come in for Olivier Mbaizo. And then we also saw, Alejandro Bedoya came into the starting lineup. I should have it right here. It was Nathan Harriel for Mbaizo, Danley John Jock for Jesus Bueno. And yeah, you had Alejandro Bedoya in there for Mikel Uhre. And so it wasn't the typical 4-4-2 diamond formation that we're so accustomed to seeing the Union run. Instead, the Union go out there and they run the 4-4-2 flat formation. And so I'm looking at comments coming in on YouTube, and this is so dumb. So I can see you guys commenting on YouTube, but unfortunately, and this is so dumb. Riverside is so dumb. We're going to have to mess with this a later time where you can potentially have 2 links going out. One where I have the opportunity to pull up your comments. So Kyle and Jillian, I see you guys commenting on YouTube, but it's not allowing me to pull up your comments unless I already hit live stream. So I don't have the option to pull up YouTube. So I'll just see your comments on YouTube and read them instead of bring them on the screen. But Kyle says, I'm wearing a Warm Brawlers shirt. Kyle says, what is Warm Ballers? People are curious. And I guess we'll go ahead and give a shout out to Jimmy Conrad. He came up with this t-shirt design years ago. And if I would have known that you were going to ask about it, Kyle, I would have went to my desk and pulled out all these stickers that Jimmy Conrad sent me. He sent me a signed picture. But yeah, it's just a brand that Jimmy Conrad started, and it's been around for years. And I just ordered a t-shirt, and that's it. And then I look, and Jimmy Conrad sends me 2 t-shirts. He sends me the signed picture and then a whole bunch of stickers. So after the live stream, I'll go ahead and send you the picture of the signed picture. I think it was when Jimmy Conrad was playing with the Wizards, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to go and check, and I'll show you all the stickers. If you want a sticker too, I have so many. I can give you a Warm Ballers sticker, but it's up to you, Kyle. But yeah, that's what Warm Ballers is, representing Jimmy Conrad's brand. Jimmy Conrad, the guy, the best, and maybe one day we'll get him on the podcast. Could have had the opportunity back at the United Soccer Coaches Convention in 2023. I saw Jimmy Conrad. I talked to him. I said, dude, thank you for sending me an extra shirt when I ordered from your website, Warm Ballers. And he said, yeah, no problem. And he was there for Target. And I wanted to get him on the podcast, but he said, like, he was only there for a couple hours. So he flew in from California, came to the convention for a couple hours, and then he was flying right back out to California because he had to go coach soccer, the St. Glenn, something like that. I forget the name of the team, but I was like, oh, dude, this is so awesome meeting Jimmy Conrad here out in the convention, and would have loved to have had Jimmy Conrad on the podcast, but maybe that's something that happens eventually. I see more people are joining on YouTube, and so it's a whole mess. So I can see the comments on YouTube, but I cannot pull up the comments. So you guys can comment. I'll get to them, but I won't show them on screen like I've done the last couple episodes. So if you guys want to figure out exactly what's going wrong, just rewind 6 minutes into the podcast and I explain why Riverside sucks. But going back to the Philadelphia Union Columbus Crew game, since Kyle got me on a rant about Warm Ballers, yeah, you see 3 changes for the Union, and the Columbus Crew come in and change out the whole team. They make 9 changes in this game, and who would have thought that, Columbus would have made that many changes? No. Everybody knew Columbus was making that many changes after they had beat LAFC in the Leagues Cup final on Sunday by a score of 3-1. And it was a huge opportunity, missed opportunities for the Union. And we'll hear Jim Curtin's thoughts on that here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, not a lot of changes by the Union. We know Jim Curtin doesn't like to make more than 4 changes a game, likes to keep the 2 center backs in place. And, well, you look with Damian Lowe not here any longer, Nathan Harriel picking up an injury. We'll get to all that here in a second, but Jim Curtin will not be changing that back line unless he is absolutely forced to. We also see Adeniran not make another start for the Union, doesn't even make an appearance. His last start for the club came against CF Montreal on August 9th of this year, obviously. That was in the Leagues Cup, but yeah, Adeniran could not get into the starting lineup, could not get into the game. You also saw Jack McGlynn not start back-to-back games for the first time this season, and you have to go all the way back to June 26th and August 3rd during Leagues Cup last year. That's the last time Jack McGlynn did not start back-to-back games, and so maybe that was something that Jim Curtin should have been asked after the game. What went into the decision with not starting Jack? Yes, we know when the Union played Columbus Crew in the semifinals of Leagues Cup, we talked about it here on the show. Jack McGlynn did not have a great performance, was responsible for 2 of the 3 goals that Columbus scored in that game. And yeah, maybe Jim Curtin, it was just as simple as not liking that matchup. I'd imagine with Union playing New York Red Bulls on Saturday, we'll see Jack McGlynn back into that lineup. But it is an opportunity for people in the media to ask Jim Curtin tomorrow at his press conference, why didn't Jack McGlynn play once again, start a game once again? And maybe we'll see what Jim Curtin says. I don't think I'll be able to join the press conference just because of the time it is, and I know the club's going up to Red Bulls pretty much after they're done practicing. So we'll go ahead and hope somebody like Kyle or Jillian or Jose can ask about Jack McGlynn if they feel comfortable, if they feel like asking about him. But yeah, I thought it was a little bit strange that it was the first time since last season that we haven't seen Jack McGlynn start back-to-back games. You also look, this is the first time since September 12th, 2015, since the Union last lost to the Crew at Subaru Park, or then what was it? Was it still PPL? I think it was, right? Or was it Talent Energy? I don't know. Kyle, Jillian, somebody in the comment section, tell me when it went from PPL to Talent Energy. I believe it was still PPL back in 2015 when the Union last lost at home against the Crew. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it too last time, where Jim Curtin going into that game in Leagues Cup against the Crew and never lost to Wilfred Nance, whether it be as a head coach with Columbus or as a head coach with CF Montreal. Jim Curtin had never lost to him. The Union were 4 unbeaten in Columbus, and streaks don't last forever. There's a pretty long one for the Union not to lose at home against the Crew since 2015, and yeah, that came to the end last night, and I don't think anybody's shocked, especially when you look at the second half of the game. The Union really didn't create many opportunities, had 3 shots, maybe 2 shots on target in the second half. I'll pull it up here. Right here, the Union in the second half, they had 3 shots, 2 of them on target, compared to the first half where they had 8 shots, only 1 on target. Yes, the Union hit the post twice, and we'll talk about that here in a second. By the way, I don't know if you guys, and thank you, Kyle. He says PPL back in 2015, and he also says, yes, Jillian will be on the press conference for sure. So maybe Jillian can ask about Jack McGlynn. But you look at this game from the first half to the second half, like I mentioned, a lot of missed opportunities, and it's concerning. It's really, really concerning where Ty Baribo hits the post in the 13th minute, and then you see Quinn Sullivan hits the crossbar in the 38th minute, 37th minute, and those were the Union's 2 best chances. The chance with Ty Baribo, you see him get a great ball played in by Quinn Sullivan, and we can dissect that more. I have a goals breakdown video coming out at 6 a.m. on YouTube, 7 a.m. on Substack, so you guys can see the plays that I'm talking about there. I'm definitely not showing goals breakdown videos while we're live streaming because, again, I've said it the last couple times, I'm not showing videos on the live stream because I don't want Apple, I don't want MLS shutting down the live stream and then just disappear. So we're not going to take that risk. I know I take the risk with putting up the goals breakdown videos, but I always get the message when I upload the video that it says MLS is okay with that, but I don't know how they would feel live when maybe there is no difference, but we're not going to take that risk. But you look at that play, it's Quinn Sullivan and Ty Baribo when he hits the post in the 13th minute. That's it. That is all the Union have for it. Quinn Sullivan has 2 guys on him. He does a good job to dribble by DeJuan Jones and then send the low-driven cross into the near post by Ty Baribo. And there was like 3 or 4 guys marking Ty Baribo inside the 18-yard box. And so I think that speaks about the credit that the form that Ty Baribo has been on here the last couple games where, all it takes is one opportunity for him and he's putting it in the back of the net. Yes, he's a little bit unfortunate that he hits the post there, but man, his awareness getting into space, finding little areas on the field to exploit is something that we really haven't seen any of last year, but ever since he's been starting, that's all you see. That's all you see is Ty Baribo making those type of runs. Any chance that he gets, he's putting it on target. And again, just unfortunate that he can't put that one in the back of the net. And then the Quinn Sullivan chance, it's really bad by Columbus once again, where the Union are attacking and Quinn Sullivan tries to take on 2 defenders, loses out on the ball, and then it's a missed pass by Columbus in their own half. Ty Baribo bounces on the loose ball into Daniel Gaza. Gaza goes out wide to Olivier Mbaizo. It's a first-time cross by Mbaizo towards Leon Flock, of all people, who's push up for it. It gets blocked by Malta Amundsen, and the loose ball, it falls to Quinn Sullivan. First-time shot, it's a thunder strike, and it hits the crossbar. And those were the 2 best chances for the Union in the first half, and I would say overall. And so Jim Curtin was asked after the game, does it feel like it was missed opportunities when you knew that Columbus was eventually going to bring on their star players that they were resting for this game? You guys weren't going to get many opportunities once those guys came on, and so it was best that you guys try to take advantage of those opportunities. And this is what Jim Curtin had to say had to say on missed opportunities.
We put a lot into the game. It's not lack of effort. Again, it's still a team that, I said it to them before the game, don't underestimate it. You still look at the wing backs. It's DeJuan Jones and Herrera, big time players. So there's not much drop off there. They still have Almondson on there. Zawadzki penciled in and played as a center back pretty seamlessly. They're still going to play the exact same way with their group. So that's a credit to them. They don't change. And we still wanted to jump on them early. I thought the first 15 minutes was pretty good, especially the start to the game. But we weren't able to sustain that because if you don't finish your chances against Columbus and they get passing and you get chasing on a hot night, it wears your legs down. The guys pushed till the end, but it wasn't enough. And yeah, I agree. It was an opportunity missed for sure with the way that the game shaked out in terms of them not playing all their key guys at the beginning.
Yep, 9 changes we talked about for Columbus Crew from the team that faced LAFC on Sunday in the Leagues Cup final. Union only made 3 changes, and you just knew it was going to happen. And Jim Curtin talked about it earlier, I want to say, in the season where the Union hadn't been lucky. A lot of things weren't going their way. And then we started to see, okay, maybe some luck was finally starting to go the Union's way. But last night, luck was not on their side. The Union hit the post. They hit the crossbar, and as Kyle says, as Mike and I said on AAT Sports, we saw it coming. And I think fans watching from home, fans in the stadium, they all saw it was going to happen. When you don't take your opportunities, when you can't finish off chances, all it takes is one chance for the Columbus Crew, and they're going to make you pay. Yes, they had a couple shots in the first half in this game. None of them really threatened Andre Blake, in my opinion. You saw Blake make a save in the 23rd minute. And then I think that was actually his only save in the first half. Yeah, I mean, Columbus dug in deep. They held their own and really weren't challenged at all by the Union. One thing, I don't know if you guys watching at home, watching live from the stadium, but if you notice how Columbus play, and I made a post with the chance that Columbus had in the 86th minute where I was praising how fun Columbus are to watch. And this fan did not like it. He did not like the compliment or they, I should say, because I don't know who runs the account. They did not like the compliment that I gave Columbus for the way they played soccer. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I never replied to her because it was so late at night when I saw it. Got home past midnight. Surprised that I'm up doing a podcast now. But look, this is for you guys. You guys got an article this afternoon. You guys got a goal breakdown video coming this morning, or coming at 6 o'clock if you guys are listening live. And here's the podcast. So I got all 3 knocked out. That's always the goal for you guys, giving you guys all 3 options. But yeah, I mean, like, how can't you appreciate good soccer? Yeah, it happened against your team, the Philadelphia Union, your favorite team. But at the same time, it's like good soccer is good soccer. And I come to appreciate good soccer. And Columbus weren't really threatening the Union. They make things so congested in the middle. They make it narrow. And they were telling the Union, look, if you're going to beat us, you got to go out wide. You got to go out wide, because if you're going to try to go down the middle, it's going to be impossible. Derek Jones, excellent. Man of the match, I think he got afterwards it was announced. And yeah, I mean, it was a great performance by the former Philadelphia Union homegrown player. We've seen him with Houston, Charlotte, now with Columbus. And yeah, it looks like an outstanding player. It seems like whoever Wilfried Nancy gets playing for that team, they buy in instantly. He knows exactly what players he needs, what players will succeed in his system. And it doesn't matter who it is, it seems like, a college kid or not. A former homegrown that's bounced around the league, it doesn't matter. Former players in general that have bounced around the league, no. Wilfried Nancy knows who's going to be successful. And it seems like every player they brought in fits the system seamlessly. I mean, you saw last night the Crew play a midfielder out of position as a center back. It was Zadarski playing as a center back, and he was playing in the midfield the last time the Union played him, and he was great. And this is Wilfried Nancy's soccer. He plays players out of position, and it looks like they've been playing there their whole life. And that's a sign of a good coach. And That's a coach that likes taking risk, and he trusts his players taking those risks. He doesn't care if that's not your natural position. They always seem to fit in. And it was no difference last night when Warford changed the lineup up 9 different players. It was an excellent defensive effort last night that we saw Columbus give. And so, yeah, I'm going to point out that, Columbus is a good team. They baited the Union on that Cucho chance where they forced the Union to press. Diego Rossi now goes out to the right-hand side, the Union's left-hand side, and he attacks the space because Kai Wagner presses the ball. Now it opens up all the space. Jack Elliott has to push out wide left to cover for Wagner. That leaves Jacob Glesnes 1v1 against Cucho Hernandez, and Jacob Glesnes is never winning that foot race. And I was a little bit surprised that Cucho put that opportunity wide, and it really should have been 2-0 at that point for Columbus, but only 1 goal, and maybe that's why the scoreline, maybe some people are a little bit surprised, like, oh, okay, yeah, the Union still lost, but they only conceded 1 goal. Where you look, Union conceded 3 last time out, LAFC conceded 3, and now they hold Columbus to 1 goal. I think a big part of that is because Columbus rested so many people. But Jim Curtin said it right there. He said, and we still wanted to jump on them early. I thought the first 15 minutes was pretty good, especially the start of the game, but we weren't able to sustain that. If you don't finish your chances against Columbus and they get passing and you get chasing on a hot night, it wears your legs down. And exactly, the Union had 5 consecutive corners within the first 6 minutes of the game. Dinley John Jock had the best opportunity on the corner, gets a free header to it and can't put it on target. And then we see that chance with Tyre Burrebo. And then Quinn Sullivan gets a chance later on. And it's like, wow, how many more opportunities are the Union going to get? And yeah, we all know, not many more opportunities. Speaking of Quinn Sullivan, though, the Union came out in a 4-4-2 flat formation, which isn't what they typically play. They play that 4-4-2 diamond. We all know that. And so Quinn Sullivan finally gets to play in his natural position. And trust me, guys, I am not the one who asked Jim Curtin about Quinn Sullivan last night. Did I want to? I didn't actually. I did not want to ask about his performance. Somebody else asked about him. And Jim Curtin, I think, gave a pretty good assessment on how he thought Quinn Sullivan played last night.
Yeah, look, the margins are very tight, Jonathan. If Mikel finishes one of the if Ty puts one of those early ones in that hit the bar, he had a couple of half chances at goal, and we're talking differently. But the margins are really thin. I thought he did some good things. He did, turn some balls over. I think trying to be brave and play forward, which I can live with. We played a little bit, as you guys saw, a little bit flatter with the 4-4-2. I thought it set up Quinn and Leon in a position to be, in an easier spot to defend the way the crew, plays forward and overlaps and does things in wide areas. So though we had some decent performances, but against a good opponent, it has to be a great performance. And that's the fine line. So again, a couple good crosses early. He hit the bar. So I thought some good, but certainly some things that could be better. And obviously, if we don't get 3 points, nobody's happy.
Yeah, nobody's happy, but I think the Union would have lived if they would have got 1 point. Jillian Almany from the One Team We Agree On asked Jim during his midweek press conference, Jim Curtin usually sets a point tally, whether it be towards the end of the season or just certain stretches of the year where Jim Curtin thinks it's a pretty tough run for the club. And if I'm not mistaken, Jim said 5 out of 9 wins in the last 9 games. So the Union had set it to 5. And I think last night would have been a great opportunity for the Union. You're playing at home. You don't have many home games left. We know the Union play this weekend up in Harrison, New Jersey against New York Red Bulls, who I believe are still undefeated at home. Kyle, if you're still in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that New York Red Bulls are still undefeated at home. So it's going to be a tough task against New York Red Bulls. The Philadelphia Union, we know, are on that crazy long unbeaten run, I think 13 games or something like that against Red Bulls. Again, Kyle, you can correct me on that and I'll see the comment on YouTube. Jillian chimes in and says, the margins are indeed very thin. And yeah, Jillian looked at me during the press conference and she loved it. She knew that was Jim Curtin saying that. That's what Jim Curtin loves saying. And he said the thing. He said the thing. Isn't that right, Jillian? And he's right. He's right. When you look at how things stand right now in the Eastern Conference, it feels like everybody's beating up on each other right now. The Union currently in 10th place still 1 point behind Atlanta United. The Union were up a game, but missed opportunity last night. Could have went level 1 points with Atlanta if they would have came away with at least a point. But you have Montreal, who are now tied with you at 27 points, 26 games played. New England has 2 less games played than you, 126 points. So they could go on a run here. Chicago on 26 points with 26 games played. You have Nashville on 26 points with 26 games played. And then DC United also 26 games played, 26 points. So, I mean, things for places from 10 to 15, extremely, extremely tight. Only 1 point separates them. Only 2 points separate some teams from 9th place spot with Atlanta United. 1 point separates the Philadelphia Union from Atlanta United. And so, yeah, Jim Curtin is right. The margins are razor thin, and they're only going to get thinner, I think, because you go to Red Bulls, and then you go on the international break, which then sees you go to New York City, into Miami, I think, during that stretch, and then you come home against DC United and Atlanta, and then you go ahead and go to Columbus, or is it Orlando, then Columbus, and then back at home to end the season against Cincinnati. I think that's what it is. Orlando, Columbus, and then Cincinnati. I believe that's what it is. I should definitely know the schedule, but man, once we come out of Leagues Cup, I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like the season's just dragging on because the farther the Union go, it feels like you're playing the end of the schedule. Looking at it now, it's Orlando City, Columbus, and then Cincinnati. You end at home. So, good memory, Todd. Good job. And Kyle says, "Yep." I know there's a little bit of a delay, but you're agreeing with me for something, so I appreciate it, Kyle. But going back to Quinn Sullivan, I know I said, but a lot of times there only one chance created for him on the night, and he's playing his more natural position. It's the chance where Todd Barrebo hits the post. You go ahead and look, 1 out of 3 shots on target in this game. And honestly, for me, I'm fine with Quinn Sullivan only taking 3 shots because you want your winger creating chances and not taking shots. But it is an issue when Quinn Sullivan only created 1 chance in this whole entire game, and he played all 90 minutes. He's played in his more natural position, and he didn't really have any targets to aim for. And that's why I thought playing Sam Adeniran, if you're going to play Quinn Sullivan out wide, gives him a target for it to send those crosses in, a big body to aim for inside the 18-yard box. But Jim Curtin wanted to get Daniel Gazdag into there. And I understand Daniel Gazag's in fine form. We've seen Daniel Gazdag play as a striker before, but at the same time, right? He's not really a striker. And that's what we've been saying about Quinn Sullivan. He's not a striker. And you're not going to play Daniel as one of those lone eights where you're going to rely on him to do a lot of defensive work as well. And I completely understand that. But I don't think Jim Curtin really set Quinn Sullivan up to succeed in this game, where, again, talked about it. The chance to tie Barrebo. That's it. It was just Quinn Sullivan and Ty Barrebo up there in the attack for the Union. 1 player in the box for Quinn Sullivan to aim for. And it's a good run by Ty. But when you have 1 person in the box, it's going to be difficult for you to create on the night. And yes, you look for Quinn Sullivan to get into those 1v1 situations. And when you're Columbus Crew and you're forcing the Union to go out wide, you do probably expect Quinn Sullivan to create a little bit more chances than what he created on the night. But I don't think Jim Curtin set him up to succeed fully. Jimmy King, I see, is chiming in here. We're getting more people who are joining on YouTube, so I appreciate you guys. Jimmy says, we could either be celebrating a playoff appearance or the bottom of the East come decision day, wild times. Kyle says, Sam makes sense, but what do I know? Yeah, it's difficult. When you look, it's like you're not setting up Quinn Sullivan to succeed. And it is crazy to think about, right, Jimmy, that this team is not in a playoff spot right now. There's still 8 games to be played, and the Union can go ahead and potentially get into a playoff spot still. Yes, they still have to play Atlanta United, and if you beat Atlanta United, then you obviously leapfrog them. But you had a game in hand against them. And the one team I am a little bit concerned about is New England. New England brought in a whole bunch of pieces. We've talked about that the last couple of episodes here. The Union destroyed New England 5-1 before League's Cup, but this is a different New England Revolution team. New England destroyed Montreal during their first game back on August 24th, last Saturday. 5-0, New England won that game. Their remaining schedule is away at Salt Lake this Saturday, and then at home against St. Louis on September 7th, then away September 14th against Orlando. Then they play Montreal at home again on the 18th, then away at Charlotte September 21st, at home September 28th against Nashville. Houston Dynamo, October 2nd, they go away for. Then at home against DC United October 5th. Columbus Crew away October 12th, and then they end the season down in Miami on October 19th. And so it's a tough schedule there for New England. A lot of away travel, but you look at a team like Nashville, you look at a team like DC United, you just battered Montreal, you play them once again. You have opportunities if you're New England to pick up points. And so New England's a team that scares me, and which is crazy to say how the Union destroyed them 5-1, the debut for Quinn Sullivan. But with all the new pieces, I think that's going to give that team new energy, saying, hey, look, we're not out of it yet, especially when you look up at the table and see how close everything is. And Kyle chimes in again and says, again, I get Quinn, but as Jim said, he's better at wide. And Jim Curtin did actually admit that during the press conference, where she says Quinn Sullivan's best suited for an out wide position. And we all knew that, right? Quinn came through the academy as a winger, but we've talked about this a couple of times, I know, in the past too, a while ago, but we have talked about it, where the reason the Union signed Quinn Sullivan is he's talented, and you're going to sign talented kids. You're going to find a way to get them into the starting lineup. But it goes back to Jack McGlynn not starting in back-to-back games the first time since 2023 of League's Cup. Both kids were talented, and you're going to do everything you can to get them homegrown contracts. You're not going to turn away talent. But neither player really fits the Union's 4-4-2 diamond formation. And last night, when you play a flat against Columbus, Jack McGlynn probably would have got exposed again if he started this game. Quinn Sullivan, you leave him out there to dry when he doesn't really have a target to aim for. And so it's difficult decisions that Jim Curtin has to make. And you also feel for these players when you know they're talented, but when you look at the way that the Union want to play, it doesn't really fit the skill sets of these players. And so I guess the last thing I'll say about Quinn Sullivan is, what does that say about Sam Adeniran or Chris Donovan not coming into this match at all, let alone starting? We talked about how Jim Curtin wanted to play Daniel Gazdag because of the form that he's in. I get that 100%. But that's not helping Quinn Sullivan out when Daniel Gazdag is not a target for it. He's not a striker at all. And so when you only have one player in the box to aim for, Ty Baribo, you're going to struggle. But the Sam Adeniran experience hasn't been great. He presses well. His touch isn't the greatest. I am surprised where he gets in tight corners, he's able to unleash shots. I mean, that's a credit to him for being confident in those tight areas and getting shots on target. But we've yet to see him get a goal, and goals aren't everything for strikers, but you are, judged off of them, because we know this fan base absolutely loves tearing down Mikhail Uhre for not scoring goals. And so, those same people that are clapping at Mikhail Uhre for not scoring goals were those same people calling out Sam Adeniran. Awfully quiet. They're awfully quiet on social media. But I digress. Going on to the next thing that I want to talk about, because we don't want to be here for over an hour when there's honestly not a lot to talk about. It's the episode title. I said, losing Nathan Harriel to injury is bigger than losing this game against the Columbus Crew. Again, we talked about it, how Jim Curtin said, 5 wins and you should be in the playoffs. And yes, it doesn't help that you just lost at home. You're limited for games at home. But Nathan Harriel, man, I wrote about it in my article. Not only is he your starting right back, but he's your third string center back. He's your backup left back. He has 5 appearances as a center back for the Union, 8 as a left back, 55 as a right back. He's so versatile. And you lose him. You already sold Damian Lowe. And now you rely on Nathan Harriel. If Jack Elliott or Jacob Glesnes get suspended, if they can't go, you rely on Nate being that starting center back. Jim Curtin said in his midweek press conference that Nathan Harriel is the third string center back. And now he has to exit this game in the 22nd minute because of back spasms. That's a huge loss. And I talked about it on this podcast too last episode where I said Andre Blake's the most important player on the team, then Kai Wagner, then Nathan Harriel. And I think there's an argument to be made that Nathan Harriel's the second most important player on this team because of how many different positions he can play. Yes, you have Oluwethu Makanya. He has 21 appearances with Union 2 down in MLS Next Pro. He's played 1,935 minutes, but he's not played a single minute for the Union at all since coming over from South Africa in the summer of last year. And yeah, I mean, I've talked about how it seems like it's a waste of a signing with Makanya at the U22 initiative where he can't get into the starting lineup. And then Jim Curtin, we all knew it, says, yeah, Nate's the third center back on this roster. And that leaves Makanya at 4. But if Nate can't go for a while, this is the worst case scenario. You lose so much with Nathan Harriel not being able to play, not being able to start because of those back problems. And so this is what Jim Curtin had to say after the game in regards to Nathan Harriel's injury.
Yeah, that hurts, because now he goes out early. That's one of the depth spots we had, and now it's gone. So I think he had back spasms, and when a back locks up like that, there's no real timetable yet, but it's not good because that's something that can kind of happen again and again. So we'll assess things, get some tests, and see where he's at. But he's a tough kid, so for him to come out, it was pretty serious and pretty painful. So he said his back just locked up on him.
Yeah, it's a huge loss. Jim Curtin knows it. We know it in the media. You guys know it as fans. I understand why the Union sold Damian Lowe. I don't really have a problem with it because you were going to lose him on a free anyway. So let alone you get $200,000. It's good business. Losing Jose Martinez, fans have an issue with that. But again, it's good business. And I think sometimes fans need to take a step back and realize that these owners are also in it for making money. They are in it to trying to make their business better. And yes, on the field, you don't get better with not having Damian Lowe or Jose Martinez. But again, it gives you more GAM if you want to apply all the money you get for these players towards next year's GAM budget. Gives you more GAM. But it certainly doesn't help you get better this season. And when we saw last year, what happened with Jacob Glesnes? He got hurt because he played too many consecutive games. And you do have a natural center back on this roster in Makanya, but Jim Curtin clearly doesn't trust him. And I can't say that I blame him. I've watched a limited amount of games this year with Union too. And yeah, there's been pretty big blunders from clips that I've seen online or a couple games that I watched from Makanya. He's fast, he's quick, but his defensive awareness isn't always there. Sometimes he gets beat too easily. And any young center back, I mean, Jim Curtin was asked about Makanya midweek and after the game too. He said, that's going to come with any young player, growing pains. But once he's given an opportunity, hopefully he takes it. And if Nathan Harriel is out without if he's out for a long extended period of time, then I guess Makanya is playing. If anything happens to Jack Elliott or Jacob Glesnes, and I don't know, how do you guys feel? I mean, Jim Curtin said it that Nathan Harriel was a third string center back, and if he can't go for an extended amount of time, then that it just makes sense to play Makanya. We have Michael coming in here saying stretching the defense so thin has its repercussions. Now with Nate injured, Martinez out, Lowe out, and Mbaizo is probably still recovering. Not looking great for defense subs. Jimmy says you have to get money for Damian if he's going for free, but not signing a new center back and getting Samuel on loan for the end of the season feels a bit throwing the towel in and starting new next year. Jillian chimes in and says bring back Stu Finley, which is funny too. Jim Curtin mentioned Stuart Finley during his midweek press conference as well, saying, this situation is a little bit like when Stuart Finley left to go to Oxford United. It doesn't work out for him in Oxford, so it goes back to Kilmarnock. But yeah, it's not good for the Union. And it brings me to my last point where I don't know how in depth a lot of you guys follow the roster rules. I mean, you got to be a sicko to understand all these different roster rules in MLS, but clubs have until September 13th to sign free agents. And then once September 13th hits, the rosters are locked. You can't register anybody else for your team for the rest of the season. We saw FC Cincinnati recently sign former Houston Dynamo center back Teenage Hadebe as a free agent. They want to shore up that back line there in Cincinnati. And the Union have the option too to go out there and sign center backs if Nathan Harriel's out for an extended period of time. It doesn't have to be a center back. It could be anybody in general. And so I asked Jim Curtin, is that something that's on the club's radar? And this was Jim Curtin's response.
Yeah, of course. We'll always look to add pieces now. There's still good players that are without teams right now. So we'll have to see first how serious Nathan's injury is. Hopefully it's not serious and he can be part of the team. But anytime a guy goes out in the 20th minute or so, it's going to be something pretty serious. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, certainly we'll always look to explore to add pieces to the team as we go into the final 8 games now.
And so you're kind of in a situation where you feel a little bit forced to go out and sign a potential free agent when you're so thin defensively. But at the same time, fans can make the argument. People in the media can make the argument, well, look at the signings you made the last couple of summers, and they haven't played. We just talked about Makanya, hasn't played yet for the first team. Look at Richard Odata, was signed in the summertime, never played for the Union. You look at Abasa, never played for the Union. You look at Davo, was on loan from Corinthians, never played for the club. You look at Jesus Bueno, I don't think he played at all that first season with the Union, spent most of his time with Union too. The Union don't typically play players that they sign in the summertime. Denley John Jock's the exception. Sam Adeniran, the exception. Because you paid a lot for Danley. You were thin in midfield, and you want to see what you have. You want to get him comfortable playing with this team, playing in this league. Sam, like Jimmy said, it's basically a loan because his contract's up after the end of the season. And so it doesn't help you at all if he's just staying on the bench. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. He hasn't started a game since August 9th against CF Montreal. Him not starting this game, I think, is very telling. Yes, again, Jim Curtin wants to get Daniel Gazdag into the starting lineup because he's in good form. But if you're going to play a flat formation, if you're going to play with wingers, you're going to play with outside players, you want a target forward. That's exactly what Sam Adeniran is. Doesn't play in this game, doesn't even come off the bench. That is concerning. And I think a lot of fans would feel that way too. And it's not good. It's not good, that situation. And maybe the Union, and I don't know anything. I'm just saying, maybe the Union have seen everything that they needed to see out of Sam. I still think, give him time to learn this team because it's a different formation. Not many teams play with a diamond formation. Not many teams play with 2 forwards like the Union do. And so I'm sure he's still learning his teammates, still learning the run, still learning the chemistry with Mikel, with Danny, with Ty Baribo, but concerning. Definitely concerning. And so we'll see. We'll see if the Union go out here in the market and sign a potential free agent. I joked in a group chat that I'm in. I'm like, well, Sergio Ramos is still a free agent. Wouldn't Union fans love for them to go out there and do one of these fishy LAFC deals and sign Sergio Ramos to a TAM deal for half a season? And then after the end of the season, then he leaves and he's free to go sign wherever he wants. I mean, if LAFC can do it, can't the Union? Fans would love that. Michael chimes in and says, Bruno looked good when he started the other day. Yeah, I thought Jesus Bueno was good as well. But again, another player that got removed from the starting lineup for Denley John Jock, and Jesus Bueno is in a difficult situation, in my opinion, and it sucks. We were all excited for what we saw of him in Leagues Cup last year. Hasn't really got many opportunities, only started 9 games this season for the Union. And you feel so bad for him when he was so close to making his debut with the Venezuelan national team. Injuries happen, and then he doesn't get called back in. Then he just doesn't play enough for the Union. And the call-ups have stopped. And man, if you're him, you're frustrated where you were right there. You were playing at such a high level. You were playing at the level that the Union knew you could play at. Then you get injured, and then the opportunities went right back down. And now he has an opportunity with Jose Martinez gone. I don't think Jesus is the answer as a 6. I think he's a better 8 than he is 6, which, by the way, if you guys didn't listen to my latest appearance on Wednesday, I believe that episode came out. We recorded on Tuesday. My friend Jordan Flort, he runs a Venezuelan podcast talking all things Venezuela, invited me on to talk about Jose Martinez's impact. We talked a little bit about Jesus Bueno there and just the Union's connection with Venezuela as a whole, with just all these signings they made with Philadelphia Union too. And great episode. I'll leave a link in the description on YouTube, on the podcast feed, so you guys can listen to that if you guys haven't listened to it yet. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts from this game. I wanted to give you guys an episode before the game against New York Red Bulls. I was like, I know it's going to be late. Got home late last night against the Columbus Crew match, but I was like, if I did the article, I gave you guys the goals breakdown video, might as well do the podcast, because out of everything I do, you guys like the podcast the best, which I appreciate. That's how you guys found out who I was to begin with, was the podcast. So I'm not known for writing. I'm not really known for the goals breakdown video, though we're getting there. But you guys always come for the podcast, like you guys all listening right now live on YouTube. So as we close up the show, again, I want to say thank you to Kyle and Jillian, to Jimmy, to Michael for all joining in live on YouTube. Sorry that Riverside wasn't allowing me to play your comments live on the feed so everybody can see it. But at least I was still able to see your comments. And yep, Michael chimes in and says, yep, found you on Spotify. So see, look, people chime in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify more than they do YouTube. So we appreciate it. So people that are joining live, I appreciate you guys. It's new, it's a work in progress, and trying to get the word out there. So try to go live 9 p.m. the day after the game. But yeah, when it's a midweek game, it's kind of hard when you try to do everything else. But again, thank you guys for being here. And you guys do have the option, like Michael said, listening on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, which means if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/FreeKickPod for the live videos, for the goals breakdown video, and that's everything we post on there. And then if you guys want to check out my reading or everything in one place, you can check out the Substack, thefreekick.substack.com. Hopefully a lot of people go up to Red Bull Arena for the media. I know myself, Kyle, Jillian, Jose, Skylar. I think Jimmy King's going up there. So there should be a lot of representation for the Philadelphia Union media up at Red Bull Arena this weekend. You love to see it. A lot of good content's going to be coming out because everybody that I just mentioned, the best, the absolute best people. Not me, though. I'm not one of the best. All these people, much better than me. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that all these people are going up, going to experience an away trip. Hopefully you guys, the listeners, are going up as fans, because away trips, even though the Union are not great this season, they're so much better than home games, just because, you know, those are the diehards. Those are the fans that I feel like care the most. And it's always great seeing fans go out there. And even if it's a short trip up to Harrison, New Jersey, those always are the best. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.